Thanks for downloading Another Podcast from anotherpodcast.com. Today's show can be found in many ways. iTunes, the anotherpodcast.com webpage, and now can be found on Stitcher.com. You can now stream the latest show anywhere with the Stitcher app, on your computer, even on your boss's computer. Another Podcast is now at your fingertips every day of the week and at your convenience. Enjoy today's episode of Warlock Wednesdays. anotherpodcast.com. Not a sponsor. Attention, Sudbury football fans! Do you want to win a trip to Super Bowl 48? I know I do. Let me tell you how you can do that. Joe McDonald Youth Football League is holding a raffle. They are selling tickets to win a trip for the Super Bowl in New York City. That's Super Bowl 48. You can win 2 tickets for you and a friend. You would also get $500 spending money, transportation to and from, that's your flight there and back, plus a hotel stay for 3 nights at a 4-star hotel. How do you get these wonderful tickets? Well, you buy a raffle ticket. And how do you buy a raffle ticket? Well, you can go to one of many locations. For those locations, you can go to joemcdonaldfootball.com, or you can just listen to my next little bit. They are Beef and Bird. You can get them there. Cubit Portable Storage. Dr. M. Staffen New Sudbury Chiropractic. Eddie's Restaurant and Sports Bar. Kicks Hot New Country 91.7 FM. Lockerbie Confectionery. The Lounge 390 at the Quality Inn. New North Fuels. New Sudbury Shopping Mall at the Lottery Center. Nickel Belt Camping. Pro-Am Sportswear. And at the Rainbow Mall at the Lottery Center. And if this is not good enough for you, well, you can place your order by phone. That phone number to call for those raffle tickets? 705-524-2970. How much do these tickets cost, you ask? Well, the Joe McDonald Youth Football League is entering its 20th season. So why not make the tickets $20? And they did! Tickets, $20. You can get them now. Win your trip. Go to Super Bowl 48. Who knows who's playing? Looks like Denver Broncos maybe, but hey, you get to be there if they are. So win your trip to New York City and Super Bowl 48 by visiting joemcdonaldfootball.com and picking up your raffle tickets, because it goes for a great cause, and hey, you might win a trip to New York City. Hello everyone and welcome to the Warlock Hour. This is episode number 49, folks. I'm getting closer to my 1-year anniversary of doing the podcast. It is Warlock Wednesdays. I am your host, Razor, and as always, we're going to start with the comic book releases. However, before I get into that, once again this week I am under the weather, a little bit congested, so I'm going to do this in sections and hopefully get it all done and ready for you by the release date for Wednesday. I'm recording section 1 here on Monday night after taking a long nap. I am feeling a little bit better than I was earlier, and I guess that we'll get right to things. So let's take a look at your comic book releases for the week of November the 13th. And they are from DC Comics this week. We have a couple of number 25s. We actually have 3 of them. First of all, we have Batgirl number 25. Then we have Batman number 25. Forever Evil Arkham War number 2. And that is I believe a 5-part miniseries. I didn't write that down. Normally I do. But Forever Evil Arkham War. Also, Katana number 9, and that other number 25 I was talking about, Suicide Squad number 25. For Marvel this week, we have All New X-Men number 18, Deadpool number 19, Marvel Knights X-Men number 1 of 5. Marvel Knights is a different division of the Marvel series, and you can check that out this coming week if you are interested in the Marvel Knights X-Men version. Also, Savage Wolverine number 11 and Wolverine number 11. So those are your comic book releases for this week. Moving on, I have with me this week... that is not your comic book releases for this week. I messed up, and I'm sorry. I forgot the independents, or the lesser known sometimes. Some of them are actually more known to other people. In fact, the big 2 are never usually bought by a lot of people, so sorry I forgot them. Let's get on with it. Independence, or the sort of not top tier, top two, not your Marvel, not your DC. From Boom Studios this week, we have Three Guns, number 4 of a 6-part miniseries. Also Sons of Anarchy, number 3. From Dark Horse Comics, Star Wars number 11. From Dynamite Entertainment, we have Miss Fury, number 7. From IDW Publishing this week, Doctor Who, Prisoners of Time, number 11 of the 12-part miniseries. Also G.I. Joe, number 10. From Image Comics this week, we have Walking Dead, number 116. And finally, from Zenoscope Entertainment, Grimm Fairy Tales, number 91. And now that is your comic book releases for the week of November the 13th, 2013. And I do, as I was going to say before, I thought I was done with the comic books. I do have some news that I didn't know where exactly to put it, because I don't get much gaming news. Usually I throw it in with the entertainment. But Blizzard had their sort of annual Blizz convention, or BlizzCon, this past weekend, that being November the 8th and 9th, 2013. And some huge announcements came out of this, as always happens at these events. Now, BlizzCon is kind of like, they try to do it every year, but last year there was no BlizzCon. There was a couple of years since they started doing it, I believe, since back in 2006, where they haven't done it every year from 2006, but people want more of this, especially fans of Blizzard Entertainment, who make the popular games StarCraft 2, World of Warcraft, Diablo 3, and I shouldn't even say the numbers. It's the StarCraft franchise, the Diablo franchise, the World of Warcraft franchise, or just the Warcraft franchise for those of you who played the original Warcraft RTS games. Then you have their newest one that's in beta right now, Hearthstone, and then also announced just before BlizzCon and talked about a little bit more at BlizzCon is their newest new game, and that being Heroes of the Storm, which I tried to get a friend of mine to take a look at it who's a big League of Legends fan. Now, I'm not a big fan of League of Legends, but I did try it out very briefly. From some of the gameplay that I've seen of Heroes of the Storm, it's very much that style of game, and it looks like Blizzard's trying to cash in on that kind of that popularity that League of Legends has developed. Now, here's some of the recap of BlizzCon. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some of the highlights for myself, and this isn't going to include maybe some of the things that you're interested in, mostly because I'm more of a World of Warcraft fan than the other games that are put out by Blizzard. So my focus is going to tend to lean towards that. Now, I do have some announcements coming the other way, but generally, I'm going to lean towards the World of Warcraft side of things, and then I'll get into some of the championships. We had the StarCraft 2 World Championship series finales. We started with 16, worked our way down to a champion. The World of Warcraft Arena Championships, where if you've played World of Warcraft, it's the Arena PvP team. We had a Hearthstone Innkeepers Invitational Tournament, where some of the well-known online people, for those of you who are in the community, they had a Hearthstone tournament, and so I got those championships and the winners of those. But I am definitely going to be more World of Warcraft centric. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to link 2 different sites in the description below that did very good and very detailed recaps. The first one, MMO Champion. I love their site. They're very good, especially when trying to find out information. Also, from wowhead.com, they are another great site, especially for questing in World of Warcraft. They also feature a Hearthstone page, and as always, not a sponsor. Just wanted to give them a shout out for doing such great work at BlizzCon to recapping it for the fans. And since I'm using some of their information for my recap, as I only really watched all the Warcraft stuff, so, to get some of the other stuff that was mentioned, it would have to be used a site. Now, let's get right to it. BlizzCon announced their new World of Warcraft expansion as part of their opening ceremonies, and that new World of Warcraft expansion is Warlords of Draenor. Now, this had been rumored for a couple of weeks, as both in Australia and then a few days later in North America, the name Warlords of Draenor had been trademarked and by Blizzard, and so that led people to believe that that's what it was going to be called. We just had no idea where they were going with it. Well, here's some of the things they're first going to do. They are going to update the player models. They're not giving us a new class or race as of right now. It doesn't look like that's the way they're going. All of the original warlords, all of the original races will be getting a new model for warlords. Just to give you an indication, the old dwarf male currently has 1,160 polygons and is mirrored on both sides. The new model will have 7,821 polygons and higher texture resolutions, and the face doesn't have to be symmetrical anymore. So there's going to be more detail. The character models that they showed looked fantastic. There definitely was more detail. Facial hair is going to move around. Their capes are now going to be animated using bones to flow more naturally. Gnome female pigtails are now animated, for those of you who like those gnome pigtails. There's just so much detail that has gone on into the upgrade of the characters, and that's possibly why we're not getting a new class or race in this one. Second up, they announced their Make-A-Wish Foundation. Now, first of all, they're going to be selling a store mount where you go to the BlizzCon store and you pay for the in-game mount. Usually they're about $25. This mount is an enchanted Fey Dragon. Now, they have not announced that they are going to sell it alone or possibly with a combo pack with a pet, because what they do with the Make-A-Wish Foundation is half the proceeds from all the sales go to Make-A-Wish Foundation. Now, a pet is normally what they sell, and then all the proceeds go to it for 1 month time, and that is usually $10. By selling a mount in combination with a pet, they could probably sell it for about $30 to $35 with half the proceeds, which means $15 to $20 going to Make-A-Wish Foundation, and this way they increase their donation to Make-A-Wish Foundation. Now, here's the thing. I will always buy the Make-A-Wish Foundation pets. So if they do this, I will probably be getting this Enchanted Fey Dragon. I love supporting Make-A-Wish Foundation, even though not all the people that play World of Warcraft will do this. I totally believe that this is the one few things that has to be done with in-store pets. Like whenever a pet goes on sale for a charity, last year they did one for the Sandy Relief Fund, and I of course bought one. So that was announced. The level is going to be increased to 100 for this expansion. Now, the last two expansions had only gone to level 5, or 5 increments. Like, we went from 80 to 85 in Cataclysm, and then 85 to 90 in Mists of Pandaria. Now we are going from 90 to 100 in Warlords of Draenor. The quests, there's going to be a lot of questing for your level. There are going to be 2 raids to start, and I believe it's going to be 7 dungeons to start from the launch. That's exactly what there's going to be. Now, there aren't any plans for another annual pass like they did when they released the Mists of Pandaria expansion, where you could sign up for a year and you got automatic entry into the beta. You got Diablo 3 for free. It just doesn't make sense this time, so it's not going to be happening. Now, there were a few announcements that were very detailed as far as like stats and things like they're getting rid of hit, they're getting rid of dodge and parry, expertise, reforging. All of it's going to be gone. They're going to change some stats. They're going to be adding tertiary stats. The primary stats on armor are going to change based on your spec. So for example, you paladins out there, you paladins who have a tanking spec and a healing spec, your gear, you no longer have to keep a full set of gear in your bags to change into what you need. You will have your whatever your spec is, you are going to have that primary stat change from strength to intellect. So automatically, so it'll go based on your spec. That means no more intellect plate, which means warriors will be much more happy when a plate item drops, because for them it will be their strength stat that they need a lot more, and stamina stat, as opposed to intellect and spell damage or something like that. It's going to be good for everybody. I love that one. Tertiary stats are going to be bonus stats that can appear on gear that don't count towards the item level budget. Things like lifesteal, avoidance, sturdiness, movement speed, cleave, and more are going to be added, and this is going to be a rare thing. So it's not going to be something that you're going to find all the time, and they've tried to work out how people might be able to stack this and that. And, I mean, it's still being in development, so there were questions asked. Now, here is the biggest thing that was announced that I was so psyched for and has actually gotten me wanting to play World of Warcraft again, because I've lapsed on it. And that's the announcement of garrisons. Now, garrisons are basically little homes that you're going to be building on Draenor. Now, Draenor is the new world, and what they're doing, to briefly sum up what they said, basically, spoiler alert, for those of you who have not completed the Siege of Orgrimmar, Garrosh is no longer the war chief. In fact, the war chief is now Vol'jin, the leader of the trolls. Garrosh is going to escape custody, as it were, find some way to travel back in time to a Draenor of just before his father, Grommash Hellscream, drank the Kool-Aid, as it were, drank the juice from Gul'dan and the Burning Legion that turned all the orcs into the green-skinned monsters we know them to be. This is not going to affect any of the timeline that it currently exists. There is going to be a lot of work done to Draenor. This is your new world. Now, garrisons, which is the key factor here, garrisons are a little thing that you can start building. And these garrisons are going to be basically a place where you can call home. You will build different things that will do different things. You can build like a mine, and you get a follower, and you can get that follower to mine that mine. You can build a pet area where you will have a stable master that will actually be a pet battler for you. You got to gain followers by visiting an inn on the property. You can build this up, and right now there's 3 tiers to it. Tier 1 looks like you can build 4 different buildings. Once you get to Tier 2, you can add, I think, 3 more different buildings. And once you get to Tier 3, you can add 3 more different buildings. So, it different... And every follower you have, you can send them on missions to do... you can do, like, different things, like send them on a quest. Now, the quests you send them on are not going to be completing, like, dungeons for you. They will go to a dungeon, like as if they're going to, for example, if they were going to the stockades. You can send them to the stockades, but they're not going to be completing the work for you. They're going to do a specific mission in the stockades and bring you back some fat loot. Hopefully. You just hope they are. Now, this is kind of like building your own... I don't know how to describe it. But it's basically what is going to be the main reason why I'm joining. Now, there was a lot of questions asked about it, and I want to get through some of the questions that was asked that probably people have. And I'm going to try and get through this as quickly as possible, as I still have more to talk about. Let's see. Let's start here. Player housing mentioned a party system. How many people can be in your garrison? Any plans for friends to access garrison while you're offline? First, they answered the second part. Probably not offline. You can invite in friends when you are there. I'm not sure what they could do while you're offline, maybe trash your house, but we do plan to have cooperative gameplay. You can grab your followers and do stuff with friends. Then, right immediately after that, the person asked how many guildies can be in your garrison instance area. Because this is going to be an instance area much like the farm is in Half Hill in Mists of Pandaria. And he goes, oh, I don't know, you could have like a full raid, bring 40 people there. Right now, they're not saying that there's going to be a limit. There was asked, who is the last boss of this new expansion? And there was some joking and some, little blurbs, and then all of a sudden they just said Grom Hellscream. So, while the final boss of Mists of Pandaria ended up being Garrosh Hellscream, we're now going to get to kick the father's ass. Grom Hellscream is going to be the final boss for this one. The question was asked, any major changes to the pet battle system? They said, we mostly know we are going to add new pets on Draenor for you to collect, trainers to battle against, couple ideas for things in garrisons. One building is called the Pet Stable, and you can get a unique trainer there, or finally get epic pet battles from that building. So that's what's on there. Any plans of having less smart heal focused and more target based, like in the Burning Crusade? Smart heals will be healing a larger percentage of the raid in mythic difficulty, and that is something I didn't mention, is that the raid difficulties are going to be changed up a little bit as opposed to what they are now. For that, you can look into that more if you're doing that. I don't raid myself. I don't have time because I have a job and it never coincides with my guild's raiding times yet. And they said, as more heals get converted over to be smart, it becomes at the expense of interesting gameplay. When someone takes damage, good player wants to cast a flash heal. When you're halfway through a cast, Healing Rain and Efflorescence kick in, and that's not rewarding. AoE targeted heals are always tricky. Prayer of Healing is the one-party targeted heal. AoE heals can be less smart while keeping them smart. Most of our heals could prioritize players that are injured instead of just the most injured player. Another thing that was asked that I was particularly interested in, Hunter AoE abilities. We only have targeted ones. What does Blizzard intend to do about this? He said, overall, the problem with the original volley is that there are players who want to do the best damage they can, and a simple rotation helps with that. Players also get bored doing the same thing over and over, so we want an AoE rotation that's not channeling something over and over. So we want people to incorporate other abilities instead of channeling and seeing arrows fall from the sky, which I kind of agree with. I do wish we had another AoE spell that possibly could be used for when we're not targeting something, but we'll have to wait and see. They asked for garrisons. Can players with lots of alts enlist them as followers? He said, we need a solution to the fact that garrisons are unique to players and not account-wide. We're not sure yet, but that sounds like a cool idea. So, now, that right there answered a bunch of questions in and of itself. Garrisons are not going to be account-wide. They're going to be like the farm, as I said. It's not account-wide. Each individual player, has to build the farm in Half Hill, or in this case, build the garrison. So it's possible that somebody with a lot of alts may be able to recruit them as followers. I hope that's not the case, although I personally have a full complement of characters. Another question that was asked is, let's see here, if I can find something that was actually important. It's rating. Transmog has a lot of cool things in store in Diablo where you don't keep items in the bank. Anything similar for WoW? He said, we have some ideas for collection systems and transmog. I don't think we can finish it by the time Warlords of Draenor comes out, but we've been thinking about it. Now, one of the things they did announce, and this is related to this question, and that's why I read it. One of the things they did announce was that they were going to kind of make your bags a little bit clearer, like emptier. Old stuff will stack better. Instead of stacks of 20, there'll be stacks of hundreds. Even your newer stuff, like enchant items and most of your ore and stuff, they're going to stack them better. They're going to clear up your quest log by, if you've had a quest for an X amount of time that is like way below your level, they're going to get rid of it unless you're actually working on it at that time. I think that still needs some work personally, but we'll have to wait and see. Ooh, hoodie. Now, the final question that was interesting to me, and for those of you who've read the books or know the lore, it was asked, will we see Illyria and Turlian again? The answer was, they're not on Draenor right now, but we have plans for them. You will see them again. And that's, as somebody who loves the lore and the books, that's something very interesting to me. So let's move on from the World of Warcraft game and go look at the World of Warcraft movie. Now, there wasn't a lot revealed. In fact, for an hour-long panel, there was truly not a lot revealed. Now, here's what we do know. There are some things to reveal. They revealed concept art. Concept art looks fantastic, especially... I did that again, especially. Especially Dalaran, Ironforge, and Stormwind. Those three areas look beautiful. They're fantastically done. Again, I'm going to have the descriptions below. You'll be able to link to the two sites that I mentioned, and they have the concept art there. Now, Duncan Jones, who's the director, he has played the Warcraft games from the beginning. The original Warcraft games, he's played World of Warcraft. He's even played Lost Vikings, and originally played Ultima Online. The guy who's doing the special effects has been playing for a very long time. In fact, he said when he was making the movies Golden Compass and doing the special effects on Golden Compass, and I can't remember the other one he mentioned, he was trying to work in raid times, and he was trying to work in different things. He has a level 90 Alliance mage. I forget which race he is, but he's Alliance, and he's a mage. Jones liked the script that was originally done when Sam Raimi was attached to the film. He said, but it was very Alliance-centric. He thought it would be better to make it about both sides and the original Warcraft. So, folks, the story is going to be the Orcs versus humans. Lothar and Durotan are your main kind of guys for each side. Lothar for the Alliance and Durotan for the Horde. The concept art they revealed a kind of shady shot of Draenor. I didn't mention that one, but as I mentioned before, they got a shot of Dalaran, Ironforge, and Stormwind that looked fantastic. He says there was a question asked during the question period whether this was going to be done as a trilogy, and all of them, and even I said at home as I was watching this, let's get the first one right, and then you can think about doing more. So that's basically exactly what the director said. Let's do this first one right, and then we can go on from there. The majority of the movie is going to take place in the Eastern Kingdoms. The lore of this time doesn't really have many female characters, but they are trying to push for and include some of the female characters that would be involved and make their role a little bit bigger than they might have been according to the lore. Somebody asked when there would be a preview, and he said, let's be realistic here, we don't even start shooting until January. So he goes, well, maybe next year at BlizzCon. So this movie is set for, I believe, a June 2015. I'm going to just double check, because there was an official announcement, and they don't have it in this section. 2015 release, and as I said, it's going to start shooting in January. Yes, December 2015 release. In fact, December 18th is the official date. And now that they have an official date, they have something to shoot for. So having a preview at next year's BlizzCon sounds fine, although if they start shooting in January, I'd like a preview sooner. But hey, you know what? They're going to have all of next year to do the filming and the post. Now, as we know, the orcs are not going to be human per se. And when I say that, what I mean is there will be a human playing an orc. There will be a person playing the orc. They're going to do it much like Lord of the Rings did with their Gollum and a lot of their special effects. It will be a man in a green suit with all those motion capture balls on him and, little dots all over the place. And it will be done right. The one question that I was interested in, and I was hoping for a little bit of a different answer, was what was the intended rating? Now, this is American, so I was expecting them to say, let's go for a rated R movie here, and, that would be a 14A movie in the States, which is fantastic. But they are shooting for a PG-13 rating. They said, look, PG-13, you can get away with a lot more than you used to. He used Dark Knight as an example. In the Dark Knight, there's a scene where, and I think everybody's going to notice as soon as I start talking about, where the Joker and a pencil, and, ta-da! So, there is a lot of things that you can get away with now with a PG-13 movie. So, in that respects, I can see this. We're not going to, what this does say to me, though, is we're not going to see a lot of blood and gore. And that's fine. I mean, it doesn't need to be all bloody and gory, but it would have been nice to see a little bit of it. Alright, so let's move on to other announcements. Heroes of the Storm. In this, on these sites, you can check out a trailer for it. As I said, it looks a lot like League of Legends, and it appears that that's the way they're trying to cash in on that aspect of things that, people like about League of Legends. So, the Diablo 3 area, as was announced earlier this year, they're shutting down the auction house. It didn't serve the purpose they wanted. It was definitely very different. Right now, their biggest focus is the PS4 release, and that is upcoming for them. Hearthstone revealed that for those people who were at BlizzCon and who ordered the virtual ticket, you would be receiving a new card called Torn Elite Chieftain, which can be good or bad. It will play, when you play the card, some cool rock music will hit, and each person will get what's called a Chord card. Chord spelled C-H-O-R-D, and these cards will vary for what they can do, but each player will get one. So you could help or hinder yourself by playing this card. That's about it as far as I want to do the recap as far as the actual thing itself. Let's get into StarCraft 2, the World Championships. Now, I've not watched many of these, mostly because I don't play StarCraft 2, but I've noticed a trend. And that trend is that the best StarCraft players in the world are in Korea. And it was proven when the round of 16 started, 15 players were Korean. Guess who won the tournament? A Korean. So in round of 16, we had one Swede who lost 3-1 to Solki. This Swede's name is Nawi. And then MMA lost to Bomber 3-2. Hero lost to SOS 3-1. Polt beat Alive 3-0. Teja lost to Deer 3-1. MVP lost to Jaedong 3-0. MC lost to Maru 3-1. And Innovation lost to Duck Doke 3-2. Into the quarterfinals, Bomber beat Solki 3-1. SOS beat Polt 3-1. Jaedong beat Deer 3-2. And Maru beat Duck Doke 3-2. In the semifinals on day 2, SOS defeated Bomber 3-1, while Jaedong defeated Maru also by a score of 3-1. Into the finals, SOS defeated Jaedong 4-1 to win the trophy, the World Championship, and a $100,000 prize. Moving on to the arena, there was 4 teams in each group. Groups were seeded into the round of 4 from their arena scores, and Group A was skill capped with a 2-0 record. They moved on to the round of 4. Also moving on to the round of 4 were Mirror from Group A. From Group B, PvP Live had a perfect 2-0 record, while LG Incredible Miracle moved on with a 2-1 record. So skill capped crossed over to play LG Incredible Miracle and defeated them 3-1, while PvP Live moved over and took on Mirror and lost 3-1, setting up a skill capped versus Mirror final, where skill capped won 4-0 to take the championship there, and that was huge for them. They split a prize. I don't have the prize actually on that one. No, I don't. They split a prize 4 ways, obviously, or 3 ways. Is it 3 ways? Let me see. Yes, 3 ways. These were 3 versus 3 teams. So that's pretty darn good for them. And possibly they may have split it differently there. Now, moving over to the Hearthstone Innkeepers Invitational, this was a special event that was not necessarily... there was no prize other than a little trophy. Well, maybe a bigger trophy. And there was 8 people invited to participate. Day 9, Wreckful, Hafu, Caprarian, Trump, Husky, Noxious, and Artosis. Day 9 lost 3-1 to Wreckful. Hafu lost 3-0 to Caprarian. Trump defeated Husky 3-0, and Noxious lost to Artosis 3-0. Caprarian beat Wreckful 3-0, and Trump lost to Artosis 3-1. And your champion, Artosis, defeated Caprarian 3-2. That was the tournament schedule at BlizzCon. So that will be the end of my BlizzCon update / recap. One other thing I want to mention before I actually do finish it off is, as I said, I am very excited about the way things are going with the Warcraft movie. Everything I heard sounded great. I am very excited to see the new systems put in for World of Warcraft, especially going forward with Warlords of Draenor. I probably won't play Heroes of the Storm. However, it is something that Blizzard needed to do to stay competitive. I understand that. One of the things I do want to mention when you're looking through these links that I will put up is definitely scroll down and take a look at a lot of the cosplay and the costume contests. Fantastic work by the cosplayers. They did an amazing job, and wow, I'm blown away every year. I mean, not all of it's fantastic. Some people just kind of throw things together last minute, and it's kind of cute. But it's very much a huge part of the reason why I love watching BlizzCon is seeing the work that these people put into their costumes. And the coolest part about this year's was 2 people, a male and a female, dressed as barbarians from Diablo, came across the stage, and he proposed to her, and she said yes. So let's end it on that and move on to some entertainment news.
Hi, I'm Rob Succhetto, and you're listening to anotherpodcast.com.
Okay, so entertainment news. Let's start off, as we always do in this section, with the box office reports from the weekend. And as expected, as I said last week, the number 1 movie for this past weekend was Thor: The Dark World. Now, it didn't quite reach that 100 million threshold that I funnily predicted. It was a joke more than anything else. I was not saying that it would make 100. I think I basically was saying that it could do 100. And I waited till after I saw the Friday openings, and I'm like, it'll do between 80 and 90. And I was right. Now, obviously you didn't hear that. I just said that to myself. Thor: The Dark World was number one and did bring in $85 million. Worldwide, this movie has now already brought in $326 million so far, and that's after week one. Now, in comparison, Thor, when it was originally released back in 2011, brought in $65 million for its opening weekend, with a total release of $181 million domestically and a worldwide total of $449 million. Now, you look at that number, $449 million worldwide. Well, Thor 2 is already at $326 after just 2 weeks being open in the world, 1 week in North America. Definitely, Thor 2 is taking over, or doing much better and cashing in on the success of the Avengers, as well as the fact that it is a fantastic film. Now, don't get me wrong, there are always flaws in a movie, and I'm sure people will be none too quick to point them out. However, I thought this was a very well done movie. There were parts of it that possibly could have been better. However, I loved the way they worked it. The humor in it was fantastic. For those of you who haven't seen it, I'm going to spoil the movie for you. Loki dies. Yeah, he dies. But he doesn't die. Because Loki is a trickster. And if you ever do anything about watching a movie that has Loki in it, don't trust Loki. I know this for a fact because I named my cat Loki. However, not after the comic book character, but after the Norse god of mischief. My cat is a little mischief maker, and so is Loki, the Norse god. In this case, Loki did a lot of trickery and chicanery and whatever other words I'm not thinking of that can say what he did. But basically, at the end of the movie, he is sitting on the throne in Asgard as the king, like looking like Odin. Not Loki the king, but Odin. He looks like Odin. It is revealed to the viewer who he really is after Thor leaves. Now, there were a lot of things in this movie that I want to see it again so I can kind of like figure out a lot of the so-called innuendos or implied stuff. I will say this. I thought the movie did very well. I really enjoyed it. I understood a lot of what they were trying to do and how it sets up for the next area. Now, it appears to me that they have set up the Infinity Gems very, 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 very well and very, 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 very subtly. In the movie so far, we've seen the Tesseract. Well, the Tesseract is going to be more than likely, I'm almost 100% sure, one of the Infinity Gems. Secondly, this new threat that was introduced in Thor: The Dark World, the Aether, pronounced Ether, spelled Aether, if I'm not mistaken, is going to be a second one. In fact, if you watch the Thanos scene, the little scene after the first part of the credits that kind of take place just before the lights came up in most theaters, or for some of you, the lights might have come up too early. That little scene, basically, we see the Lady Sif and I can't think of his name right now, and I'm not going to go looking for it. Anyways, we see Lady Sif and another one of Thor's crew bring in the Aether to a quote-unquote collector. And after they leave, he goes, 2 down. Yes, that's right, folks. The collector, as played by Benicio del Toro, was in Thor: The Dark World. We are going to see Benicio del Toro again in Guardians of the Galaxy. This is tying it all together. Now, the end credits scene, or the shawarma scene, as it were, was some people were a little disappointed with. They're like, they did that for a kiss? I stayed until the end for a kiss? But there wasn't just the kiss. For those of you who watched past the kiss, we noticed that one of the beasts that was accidentally transported to Earth while all the planets were in alignment, was still running loose. Well, guess what, folks? That little scene has to do with an upcoming episode of Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. In fact, on November 19th, 1 week from today, you will be able to check out exactly what happened with that little beast. In fact, I'm almost guaranteeing it, that we will see that beast appear on Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Now, I'm not going to give a full review of the movie, but I will say this. If I were to harken back to real music, which you can hear on anotherpodcast.com on Tuesdays, I would give this movie 4.5 reels out of 5. No, you know what? Let's give it 4 reels out of 5. There were some other little tiny flaws in it. But this movie, I'm a harder judge of movies than most people. I have a very strong opinion. I know what I like. I know what I want to see. And movies that disappoint me are always going to be out there. However, I try to look past a lot of things, even though there's other things that I get fixated on. I hate when people just rate something so high because of, personal views. Personally, I think this movie's a 5 out of 5. But it's not perfect. There's no such thing as a perfect film. If there was, then there wouldn't be no competition. This movie is 4 to 5 because there are flaws. There's little things. But this movie is so entertaining. This movie has action, it has one-liners, it has humor, it has romance, it has a lot of things that you want to see in a movie. And I think that it's done very well. I thought the actors were great in it. Once again, Tom Hiddleston outdoes himself and plays a great character. Thor definitely gets me to a 4 reels out of 5. And yes, I judge things a lot more harshly. But you know what? It has served me well in my 37 years of existence. Alright, so let's get to the rest of the top 10. We have, in number 2, Jackass Presents Bad Grandpa, bringing in $11.3 million. Freebirds climbs into number 3 spot with $11.1 million. Falling down to the number 4 spot is Las Vegas with $11 million. Ender's Game drops from number 1 to number 5 with $10.2 million, bringing its 2-week total up to $44 million, less than half of its budget. As I said, this is going to be considered a box office flop. Falling to number 6 is Gravity with $8.5 million. Holding steady at 7 is 12 Years a Slave with $6.6 million. Captain Phillips falls to 8th at $5.7 million. About Time jumps up from 13th to 9th with $4.7 million. This also increased its screens by 1,175 as it only had, 1,025 as it only had 175 last week, and that's pretty impressive. Rounding out the top 10 is Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2 at $2.7 million. Now, 2 things I want to point out. My honorable mention from last week was The Book Thief. Only opened on 4 screens. As I said, it was a very limited release, bringing in $105,000, making it the highest grossing per screen average at $26,251. The second on that list, the number 1 movie of the week, Thor, brought in $22,322 per screen. That is huge. Alright, so that's your box office news. Let's take a look at what's coming out this coming weekend. Not much, which means Thor will be on top once again, as the only movie that's officially being released is The Best Man's Holiday. This movie I have seen very little about. It just looks like a flat-out comedy, and possibly a romantic comedy. There might be some romantic elements in there, but it looks like a flat-out comedy, and not even sure what the release is going to be like, but it is the only release, or the only movie scheduled for release this week, which gives Thor an extra week before Hunger Games comes out on the 22nd. Now, speaking of the Hunger Games, my unhonorable mention of the week, in very limited release, The Starving Games, which will be a parody of the Hunger Games. Now, for those of you who love those parody movies out there, maybe this will come to a theater near you. The Starving Games comes out this week in limited release. And that is it for your movie releases. So let's move on to some entertainment news. The next Bourne movie has found its director, Justin Lin, who directed the Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift, Fast and Furious, Fast 5, and Fast and Furious 6, will be reteaming with the same studio, Universal Pictures, to direct he's in talks to direct. I shouldn't say he is the director. He's in talks to direct the Bourne Legacy sequel, which will star Jeremy Renner as Aaron Cross once again. Frank Marshall and Ben Smith are producing. Anthony Peckham is the scriptwriter. This movie is still not having a release date. However, the first one was released in 2012 and came out to $276 million worldwide release after costing $125, so it doubled its budget, and which is why they want to make a sequel. Rumors abound about Ghostbusters 3. It seems that Ghostbusters 3 is going to be filmed in Cleveland next year. Here's what was said by I'm trying to figure out who said it. NBC Cleveland said that more movie projects are on the way. One being the sequel to Ghostbusters, as Sony has penciled in spring 2014 date to start shooting the third installment here in Cleveland. In related news, it says that on Schmoes Knows, not a sponsor by the way, says they have it on good authority that none other than Jonah Hill and Emma Stone have been offered the parts of Jeremy and Anna, respectively, in this Ghostbusters reboot, so to speak. Now, Dan Aykroyd has previously said that this is the plot. I will quote him. It's based on new research that's being done in particle physics by the young men and women at Columbia University. Basically, there's a research being done that I can say that the world or the dimension that we live in, our four planes of existence, length, height, width, and time, become threatened by some of the research that's being done. Ghostbusters, that is, new Ghostbusters, have to come in and solve the problem. These new Ghostbusters appear to be Emma Stone and Jonah Hill. All of this speculation at this time, until we get official word, nothing is set in stone. A movie that could be set in stone is the sequel to Layer Cake. Layer Cake is one of the most successful British films of all time. It marked the directorial debut of Matthew Vaughn. It starred Daniel Craig as the nameless character in the lead role. This sequel will be called Viva la Madness, and this one will unfortunately not feature Daniel Craig in the lead role. However, it will feature Jason Statham. Jason Statham's company is also producing this film, Viva la Madness, and it just sounds interesting. Here's the official description from the novel. The anonymous hero of Layer Cake is pulled back into the drug game before he can escape to a sunny retirement. In an authentic but dazzling combination of London lowlife, Caribbean highlife, and Venezuelan drug cartels toting machine guns in Mayfair, the brilliance and the madness is back. Viva la Madness! In this sequel, it is based on the sequel book. Now, the Layer Cake was out in 2004, which was based on the novel by J.J. Connolly in 2000. Well, he wrote a sequel in 2011, and now this is where this movie is coming from. So Jason Statham is taking over the lead character. Now, much like you would hear on Real Music, which unfortunately couldn't, due to technical difficulties, was not able to be done this week, there is a section called the Superhero Power Hour. Now, I have a bunch of sort of superhero news that all kind of ties in together. So I wanted to kind of bring it all in at the end and tie it all together. Alright, here's the thing. I am not a huge fan of Man of Steel. Anybody who knows me knows that. I found huge flaws with it, and everybody keeps saying that I keep pointing out about Superman killing Zod. Look, that was just one flaw. There are a lot of flaws with this movie, and if that's the one flaw you're going to focus on, you know what? So be it. Yes, Superman's killed before. I'm telling you. I said it. I've admitted it. I think it was stupid in the movie. It didn't make sense. To me, there was a way to avoid it, and they said they put him in a no-win situation, which is just... you know what? You can bullshit your way out of anything. As long as you personally have a description or if you have a way where you can describe it that makes sense to you, then you know what? All the power to you. Zack Snyder is definitely that person. He can he can bullshit his way out of anything. He's using bullshit to try and convince us that what he did wrong in Man of Steel was right. And I'm not just talking about the killing of General Zod. I'm talking about young Clark Kent wearing the cape. He's like, oh, well, he didn't know it, but he was hearkening back to his Kryptonian roots. Are you fucking kidding me? Seriously, Zack Snyder? That's your explanation for that? Just admit it. You screwed up. God. It was stupid, and it was just wrong. Anyways, Man of Steel 2 has rumors now circling that it's going to contain a lot more than we think. We already know that Man of Steel 2 is going to feature Batman in apparently a lot more prominent role than was originally hinted at. This was supposed to be an extended cameo role with possibly mostly only Bruce Wayne with an appearance by Batman. In fact, when they announced it, they said it was going to be a Batman appearance. They didn't say it was going to be Batman versus Superman, which, you know what? That title alone pisses me right off. First of all, it's Man of Steel 2. Second of all, it is still a Superman movie. Why the hell is Batman's name first? It's bullshit. They've announced now that apparently Wonder Woman's going to be in it. That's been rumored for a long time. Sorry, that's not an announcement. That's rumor. There's rumors now floating that Nightwing, a.k.a. Dick Grayson, will be in it. There's rumors that there will be other superheroes in this movie. Are they making the Justice League movie now? I thought we were waiting till 2017. Like, seriously, Zack Snyder, get your shit together. Now, not only have they rumored the Dick Grayson role, but they got this big-eared goof, Adam Driver, apparently in the lead for it. Adam Driver is said to be so far the only rumored star who plays in a show called Girls. Apparently he is the frontrunner for Dick Grayson in Man of Steel 2, where he will be playing Dick Grayson as Nightwing, not Dick Grayson as Robin, so don't worry, he's not supposed to be a little boy. This is, like, I don't even know if I want to link a picture, but I probably will. I will link a picture of this big-eared goof, because you know what? He looks like he could be, like, Goofy from Disney, as opposed to, like, Nightwing. Like, I haven't read many Nightwing comics, I haven't read many Batman comics, but from the Dick Grayson that I've seen in the comics I've read Death of the Family, I've seen him in crossovers with Batgirl, I've seen him in other crossovers. He's not a big-eared goof. And that's really all this guy looks like. I can't describe it any other way. He looks like a big-eared goof. And he's the frontrunner for the lead. Like, every time they announce or say something or rumor something, I'm like, this movie's gonna suck. Worse than Man of Steel. It's going to make Man of Steel look like freaking Schindler's List. So shitty. Alright, let's move on to other news. This past weekend, Kevin Smith, actor, director, writer, whatever you want to, podcaster, whatever you want to call him these days. And yes, people do call him a fat ass, but I won't. Whatever you want to call him, he sat down with Zack Snyder to moderate a panel. Now, a lot of people were blaming Kevin Smith for some of the things that were said. Kevin Smith didn't know what the hell was going on. He was asked to moderate a panel. Well, this moderation ended up being just more information about Man of Steel and nothing about Man of Steel 2 whatsoever, which is what everybody was hoping for, that we'd get into Man of Steel news. Now, I'm only going to read one quote. Like, this was a fan event where fans asked questions. And Zack Snyder was asked about the famously catastrophic levels of destruction in Man of Steel, which seemingly would have claimed the lives of thousands of civilians. Snyder had this to say. He said, probably about 5,000 people died from the Metropolis attack. For me, that was part of it. No, there's real consequences. Not to compare, but if you look at the Avengers, they trashed the city and nobody thinks about how many people are dying. He also added, there's a sadness at the end of the movie, Man of Steel, that there's a thing that weighs on Superman. Snyder is bullshitting his way again and is wrong. When you compare it to the Avengers, it shows how badly he missed the entire point. First of all, the levels of destruction depicted weren't nearly as grandiose in Avengers as they were in Man of Steel. Secondly, all throughout the showdown in New York between the Chitauri and the Avengers, there is constant attention being shown towards saving civilians' lives and trying to limit the damage. They cordon off an area. Even, like, what was the line that Captain America said? If they get three, you either shoot it down or you get it back. They did everything to contain the size of the battle, keep the body count down, keep innocent people out of harm's way, and we saw them being inspirational to the people they were fighting for. Unfortunately, there is little to none of this in Man of Steel. Especially in the half hour that we're treated to building after building after building after building collapsing, people screaming in the streets, and all we see Superman doing is punching right through buildings. That's it, just knocking more down. Oh, he did take a moment to make a joke and kiss Lois amidst the rubble of the broken bones and demolished buildings as ash floats in the air all around them. Look, I am never going to be a huge fan of the Man of Steel movie. I realize that there are people out there that are going to like it. There are going to be people out there that are going to hate it like me. Thank you, Ralph Garman, by the way. There are also people out there who can look at movies objectively. I'm not necessarily one of them, but I try to. Watch these movies again. Watch Man of Steel and watch Avengers, and you tell me Zack Snyder wasn't bullshitting when he answered that question about the 5,000 people dying and all that, and comparing it to the Avengers is like that. He said nobody thinks about how many people are dying. You know what? Avengers did it right. Joss Whedon knew what he was doing. Joss Whedon was very careful and very deliberate when it came to showing that the heroes weren't just blindly fighting, but they were taking approaches to try to do all those things I already said, like to make the battle in kind of a concentrated area. They made it focused. We saw people being saved. We saw Cap dive in and throw up his shield and then telling them to get people and get them out of there. There was so much more in the Avengers than there was in Man of Steel. Yes, I will say this. Granted, Man of Steel only had one guy, and that was Superman. But that's the point. His name is fucking Superman. There was just so much wrong with Man of Steel that goes way beyond the whole killing of General Zod. There's the destruction of Metropolis. There's the death of thousands, maybe millions of people. There's the inconsiderate Kal-El, because he was never really called Superman. There's the killing of Jonathan Kent. There's the keeping alive of Jor-El. There's there's just so many things that were wrong. Like, seriously, why the hell was Jor-El still around? Why the hell was he still interacting with everybody when he should have been long dead and forgotten? Why? I'll tell you why. Not because it was a cool part of the script or anything, but because they were paying Russell Crowe millions of dollars and they didn't want him in the scenes for like less than like an eighth of the movie. Had nothing to do with continuity or anything that like that. They threw bullshit upon bullshit upon bullshit at us, and obviously people ate it up and loved it. I was not one of them. Speaking of Kevin Smith and that Zack Snyder thing, after the interview was over, when all the cameras were off and Kevin and Zack were talking, Zack Snyder pulled him aside and showed him some pictures off his phone that showed the Batman costume and Ben Affleck in the costume. On Hollywood Babylon, not a sponsor, but a great podcast, the reason I got into podcasting, Kevin Smith revealed that he saw the costume, and more than that, he saw Ben Affleck in the costume. He said, I don't want to give anything away, because that is up to them, but I am going to say this. I instantly bear hugged him. You have not seen this costume in film before, because every other movie has done this matrixy black armor thing. There wasn't a single nipple on this freaking suit, man. I think everyone is going to be like, holy shit, we haven't been down this path before. Even the hardest, hardcore, quote, fuck this movie, unquote, person will be like, alright, I'm ready. It seemed like it was very Bleep influence. Now, Bleep is there because in the podcast, I believe Kevin Smith actually said the word. So all the people that were at Hollywood Babylon actually probably heard the word. Now, the only thing I can think of is that he referenced a person or an artist at that point. Now, I'm personally thinking that we are going to see the classic gray suit, yellow belt, blue cowl, blue gloves. I think that's what we're going to see in our tired and weary Batman. That's just me, but we'll have to wait and see. And finally, for the Man of Steel 2, reported last week that Jamie Alexander, who played Lady Sif in Thor, was had some discussions with Warner Brothers. That is all over with. Basically, her work with Marvel, Disney will not allow Warner Brothers to cast her in any role. I think it's more like they don't want to cast her because they might be crossing streams, so to speak, to use a Ghostbusters reference. So there are 3 actresses now up for the either love interest of Bruce Wayne, or what more and more people keep saying is going to be playing Wonder Woman. These 3 actresses are Gal Gadot from Fast and the Furious, G.I. Joe Retaliation's Elodie Yung, and Quantum of Solace's Olga Kurylenko. In addition, they note that a 4th actress may have gone in to read for the role, which is being described, as always, as a tall, brunette, athletic, and exotic. The site that I read also noted that due to her obligations to Marvel, it is unlikely that Jamie Alexander will be cast in the role, be it for Diana or any other character. Yeah, and also it is being reported, as I said earlier, that other Justice League members are slated to appear in the film now, including Wonder Woman and The Flash, but it is unknown if these roles will be cameos or of significance. As I said earlier, I think it's crap. We all saw what happened when we tried to cram a shit ton of people into Spider-Man 3. I think Sam Raimi is a much better director than Zack Snyder. And if Sam Raimi couldn't do it because Sony wanted it done, then there's no way that Zack Snyder is going to do it because Warner Brothers wants it done. That's just my opinion. You guys can agree or disagree. That is your right. I'm just telling you like it is. And moving on to the final bit of superhero news, it's actually some television news. ABC is developing another Marvel TV series. Netflix announced earlier this week that they would be releasing 4 shows onto their network through Marvel. Those shows include Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and Iron Fist. All of which I am very much interested in seeing. They're not popular. This will lead into a Netflix feature film called The Defenders. Now, the Walt Disney Company has announced that when asked about the Marvel deal with Netflix and why that particular route was chosen, Iger said the company realized there are only so many shows that could fit on their platforms, which includes the animated shows on Disney XD and the Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. currently on the ABC network. He then went on to say that ABC has another Marvel series in development, and but although he wouldn't comment on who the character or what the series is based on, it is rumored that Agent Carter could be the TV series that he is talking about. Agent Carter, remember, is the agent that Captain America fell in love with in the first Avenger movie, Captain America the First Avenger. So this movie would be set in kind of like the 40s, or the series would be set in kind of the 40s with Agent Carter playing off that one shot that we saw on the Iron Man 3 DVD. So that is your entertainment news for this week. I'm going to be breaking off into sports, so I hope you've enjoyed this part of the show, and we'll see you on the other side with sports. Hello out there, all you NFL fans. Do you like to pick the winners of each game every week? Well, guess what? So do I. Right now, you're listening to the Warlock Hour here on Warlock Wednesdays. We're about to go into sports, but before we do, I just want to tell you that every Thursday you can listen to Warlock Hour Presents NFL Pick'em. That's right, me and a few friends sit down and we pick the winners of each game every week. We have fun doing it, and you can listen along and maybe even pick against us. Listen to a few amateur analysts as we give our opinions on each game every week, and we pick the winners and compete against each other, just a friendly competition, and we have fun doing it. So if you'd like to tune in and listen to that, that's tomorrow, Thursdays, on anotherpodcast.com. EHNOTHER podcast.com, a Canadian podcast network. And welcome back. We are at the sports section of the episode this week, and we're going to start with the NHL's 3 stars for this past week, and they are first star goaltender from the Ottawa Senators, Robin Lehner. Robin Lehner posted a 3-0 record this week with a 1.33 goals against average and a .958 save percentage. He defeated the Columbus Blue Jackets, Montreal Canadiens, and Florida Panthers to earn this 3-0 record for the week. Your second star is another goalie this week, Frederik Andersen of the Anaheim Ducks. Andersen also posted a 3-0 record with also an identical 133 goals against and an identical .958 save percentage. His wins come over the New York Rangers, the Buffalo Sabres, and the Vancouver Canucks. With Hiller coming off injury shortly, this is going to make possibly Hiller expendable and possibly tradable, with with Anderson and Fast being their goaltenders of the future in Anaheim. And the third star of the week was Patrick Sharp of the Chicago Blackhawks. He led the NHL with 1 goal and 6 assists for a total of 7 points. The 6 assists is where he led, actually, not the point total or the goal total, more players have scored more than one goal. However, in the 3 games that the Blackhawks played, 6 goals and 7 assists, 6 goals and one goal and 6 assists for 7 points is pretty darn good. He recorded those points in a 4-1 win over the Winnipeg Jets, a 5-2 victory over the Dallas Stars, and a 5-4 victory over the Edmonton Oilers. Moving on, we have some sad news to report for Tampa Bay Lightning fans and also fans of Team Canada. Tampa Bay Lightning forward Steven Stamkos injured his leg on Monday afternoon in a matchup against the Boston Bruins. Not only did he injure it, but he broke it. He fractured his right tibia and underwent successful surgery on Tuesday in Boston, and this is going to be a long-time injury. There's no prospective timetable. However, on average, this is a 3-month injury at the best of times. No word on when he will be returning to. He will be returning to Tampa on Thursday to begin rehabilitation. However, as I said, no word on a timetable or a time frame of when he will be able to return to the ice. GM meetings going on in Toronto right now. They've kind of wrapped up and will resume GM meetings in March in Florida. And a couple of things on the docket. GMs are not taking any actions on the goalie fighting issue, something that I made mention here a couple of weeks ago. And I'm not sure I'm liking this. This is one where I think Gary Bettman should have needed to step in and talk about player safety if that's what he indeed is supposed to be advocating. Another thing is a modification to the overtimes. In regular season, we know right now that we play a 4-on-4 overtime of 5 minutes and then follow that up with a shootout. Well, Kenny Holland, who is the GM of the Detroit Red Wings, has been proposing as far back as 2010 that we need to change this, and that every time the topic gets tabled till the next time they meet. Well, this has now gained traction. One of the first suggestions Holland had was we have a 5-minute overtime of 4-on-4 followed by a 5-minute of 3-on-3 before going to the shootout to resolve more games with actual hockey playing as opposed to a shootout. The number of proposals or amendments to the current overtime format were discussed. A number, like a lot of them, a few issues were discussed. However, as I said, this has been tabled till March, and we'll have to wait and see where things go there. I am all for changing up the overtime format as it is. Perhaps the balance, instead of going 4-on-4 for 5, and then 3-on-3 for 5, and then a shootout, would be to possibly go 4-on-4 for, let's see, half a period would be 10 minutes. Let's do 10 minutes. Let's make it a full 10-minute overtime, but keep it 4-on-4. Let's take a look at the standings now. In the Eastern Conference Atlantic Division, top 3 teams: Tampa Bay with 24 points, Boston with 23, and Toronto with 22. In the Metropolitan Division, your top 3 teams are the Pittsburgh Penguins with 22, the Washington Capitals with 21, and the New York Rangers with 18. Currently, your 2 wildcard spots sit as follows. The Detroit Red Wings has the first one with a 22-point record, with 22 points, and Montreal has the second one with 19 points. Followed closely behind are Ottawa and Carolina, each with 18 points. Moving over to the Western Conference, the stronger of the 2 conferences. In the Central Division, Colorado leads the way with 28 points, followed closely by Chicago, also with 28 points. St. Louis rounds out the top 3 in that division with 24. In the Pacific Division, Anaheim leads the way with 31 points, while Phoenix follows with 26, and San Jose rounds out the top 3 with 25. Your current wildcard leaders in the West are Minnesota with 24, and Vancouver also with 24. Those are your standings. Let's take a look at some statistics. As they stand right now, the aforementioned and now injured Steven Stamkos leads the way in points with 23. He's tied with Sidney Crybaby Crosby with 23. Ryan Getzlaf and John Tavares each have 22, while Alexander Steen has 21. Your goal leaders, currently there's a 3-way tie. Again, the aforementioned and injured Steven Stamkos has 14, as does Alexander Ovechkin and Alex Steen. Your next down the line are Corey Perry and Matt Duchene, each with 11 goals. Your assist leaders currently is Henrik Sedin of the Vancouver Canucks with 17. Then we have Crybaby Crosby, Nick Backstrom, and Joe Thornton, each with 15, followed by John Tavares with 14. Your plus-minus leaders, Dustin Penner currently leads that category with a plus 18, followed by Francois Beauchemin with 17, Jan Heda in Colorado with 16, then Henrik Lindholm and Corey Perry with 15 and 14 respectively, making 4 of the top 5 plus-minus players part of the Anaheim Ducks. Your goaltending statistics. Your goals against average leader currently is Josh Harding with a 1.22 goals against average, followed by Tuukka Rask at 1.52. Simeon Varlamov has a 2.01. Marc-Andre Fleury 2.07, and Corey Schneider sits at 2.09. Your wins leaders, currently Ben Bishop of the Lightning and Corey Crawford of the Blackhawks, each have 11 wins. Next up, we have Tuukka Rask, Marc-Andre Fleury, and Jonathan Quick, all with 10 wins. Save percentage leaders, currently, 948 save percentage leads the way for Tuukka Rask, followed by Josh Harding with a 947 save percentage, Robin Lerner with 945, James Reimer with 942, and Simeon Varlamov with 936. Currently, your shutout leaders are as follows. We have a bunch of them, 7 of them, in fact, with 2 shutouts on the season, and they are Tuukka Rask, Josh Harding, Antti Niemi, Roberto Luongo, Henrik Lundqvist, Jean-Sebastien Giguère, or J.S. Giguère for short, and Marty Brodeur. That is it for your statistics. Let's move on to some football stats. We're going to take a look at the injury roundup as it pertains to the NFL right now. So, we have a lot of injuries to get through. Here they are. Michael Vick is still not ready to play. However, he says personally he doesn't want to be a team distraction. Foles has made the most of his opportunities so far over in Philadelphia, throwing 10 touchdown passes and no interceptions in back-to-back Eagle wins. So in the last 2 games, 10 touchdown passes, no picks for Mr. Foles. Also, the Bears received a double shot of bad news. Coach Mark Trestman has said that Jay Cutler will miss Week 11 against the Ravens as he recovers from a high ankle sprain, and cornerback Charles Tillman was placed on injury reserve with the designation to return due to a triceps injury, which means he won't be back till near the end of the season, which is, I believe, the last game of the season will be his first game eligible. Dallas Cowboys middle linebacker Sean Lee is expected to miss the next 3 to 4 weeks with a hamstring strain. Seattle Seahawks are reporting that Brandon Browner could miss extended time after suffering a groin injury in Sunday's win over Atlanta. Denver Broncos quarterback Peyton Manning underwent an MRI. Test came back negative, and just an aggravated ankle injury. He is expected to start against the undefeated Kansas City Chiefs this coming Sunday night, and I fully expect Peyton Manning to win and throw for at least 4 touchdowns. Cleveland Browns outside linebacker Quentin Groves has been moved to injured reserve because of an ankle injury. Browns quarterback Jason Campbell was full speed in practice Monday, according to sources, and has added that I messed that up. And according to Chudzinski, he is good to go. Campbell suffered a rib injury in Week 9's win over the Baltimore Ravens, and the Browns are coming off their bye week to face the Cincinnati Bengals. The New Orleans Saints safety Kenny Vaccaro will not play in Week 11 against the San Francisco 49ers and could miss the following week as well. The rookie took a knee to the helmet and sustained a concussion in Sunday's win over the Cowboys. Green Bay Packers coach Mike McCarthy said that quarterback Aaron Rodgers is a, quote, couple of weeks away. Though the coach hasn't been given a specific return date, Rodgers broke his collarbone last Monday during the loss to the Chicago Bears. New York Jets wide receiver Santonio Holmes practiced with teammates this week, and barring a setback, he could return to lineup this Sunday against the Buffalo Bills. The Atlanta Falcons will place left tackle Sam Baker on IR. On Wednesday, the team also released linebacker Thomas Howard to make room for linebacker Sean Witherspoon, who's returning to the active roster. Dallas Cowboys defensive end Marcus Ware said he tweaked his thigh during Sunday night's 49-17 loss to the New Orleans Saints. The Cowboys have a bye, so Ware hopes to play in Week 12. Tampa Bay Buccaneers running back Mike James will not return this season after breaking his right ankle on Monday night during the team's during the team's win over the Miami Dolphins, which was my upset pick of the week on NFL Pick'em last week. Arizona Cardinals wide receiver Michael Floyd injured his shoulder on Sunday in the Cardinals win over the Houston Texans, but Cardinals coach says that he's hopeful that Floyd will play against the Jacksonville Jaguars this week. San Francisco 49ers tight end Vernon Davis sustained a concussion in the 49ers' loss to the Panthers on Sunday. Davis landed on his shoulder as well as his head, but said he did not suffer any post-game symptoms. On Tuesday, Davis said he's feeling great and is waiting on the team doctors to proceed. Also, Tennessee, Jake Locker, quarterback for the Tennessee Titans, he will be done for the season, and Ryan Fitzpatrick will take over there. This could be the last game that Jake Locker plays as a Tennessee Titan, and we'll have to see where things shape up as we go into the off-season for the Tennessee Titans. So let's take a look at our standings as it stands in the NFL right now. Patriots had a bye, so they still remain at 7-2. New York Jets are sitting at 5-4. Miami Dolphins at 4-5. The Buffalo Bills sit at 3-7. Cincinnati Bengals at 6-4. Cleveland Browns at 4-5, as well as the Baltimore Ravens. Pittsburgh Steelers sit at 3-6. Over in the AFC South, the Indianapolis Colts at 6-3. The Tennessee Titans at 4-5. Houston Texans at 2-7, and the Jacksonville Jaguars got their first win and are at 1-8. Over in the AFC West, we have the Kansas City Chiefs at 9-0, and they will face the Broncos this week, who are 8-1. And I fully expect the Broncos and the Chiefs to be tied with an equal 9-1 record after this week. Wrapping up the AFC West is the San Diego Chargers at 4-5, and the Oakland Raiders at 3-6. Moving over to the NFC. Tightly contested division, Dallas Cowboys sit at 5-5, currently on top, followed closely, and more potentially lethally, the Philadelphia Eagles also at 5-5. Then we have the 3-6 Giants and the 3-6 Redskins. In the NFC North, the Detroit Lions lead the way there at 6-3. They are ahead of the injured Chicago Bears at 5-4, and the even more injured Green Bay Packers also at 5-4. Rounding out that division is the lowly Minnesota Vikings, who are sit at 2-7. In the NFC South, we have the New Orleans Saints at 7-2, the pouncing Carolina Panthers at 6-3, the Atlanta Falcons at 2-7, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who also picked up their first win this past week, at 1-8. And in the NFC West, of course, Seattle Seahawks leading the way with a 9-1 record, followed by the San Francisco 49ers at 6-3, the Arizona Cardinals at 5-4, and the St. Louis Rams round out the division at 4-6. Taking a look now at some statistics, Peyton Manning still leads the way in the passing yardage category, 3,249 passing yards for Mr. Manning, followed closely by Drew Brees at 3,064. Andy Dalton of the Bengals has 2,861. Matt Stafford of the Lions has 2,836. And Phillip Rivers of the Chargers has 2,691. Your touchdown passing leaders, still Peyton Manning leading the way with 33 passing touchdowns. Next up on that list is Drew Brees with 25. Tony Romo has 21. Matt Stafford with 19. And then Andy Dalton and Phillip Rivers each have 18. Your rushing yards leaders currently are LaShawn McCoy, or Shady McCoy if you will, 932 yards for Philadelphia. Marshawn Lynch has 871 yards. Alfred Morris has 825 yards. Adrian Peterson with 786, while Jamal Charles rounds out the top 5 at 725. Your rushing touchdown leaders currently are Adrian Peterson has 9, Noshawn Moreno has 8, and then we have a three-way tie for the next spot. Marshawn Lynch of the Seahawks, Matt Forte of the Bears, and Frank Gore of the 49ers, all with 7. Sorry guys, still a little under the weather here. Receiving yard leaders, A.J. Green of the Bengals, 1,013 yards. Chris Johnson, a.k.a. Megatron, 904 yards. Followed by Deshaun Jackson at 903, then Andre Johnson at 850, and Antonio Brown at 805. Your reception touchdown leaders are Jimmy Graham of the Saints, tight end I might add, with 10. Demaryius Thomas of the Broncos with 9. Also Wes Welker, Chris Johnson, Julius Thomas, all with 9 touchdown receptions. Taking a look at the defensive side of things, Carlos Dansby still leads the way with 75 total tackles so far. D'Amico Ryans follows him with 71. Paul Posluszny has 68. Vonteze Burfict has 67. And Barry Church also has 67. Your sack leaders currently are Robert Mathis at 13.5, or 13.5. Robert Quinn of the Rams at 12. Justin Houston of the Chiefs with 11. Also Mario Williams of the Bills with 11. And rounding out the top 5 is Tom Bahali and Terrell Suggs, each with 9. Your interception leaders currently are, and there's a lot of them that have 4, but 2 of them lead the pack. DeAndre Levy and Alteron Werner, each with 5, and the following guys all have 4 interceptions. Richard Sherman of the Seahawks, Kiko Alonso of the Bills, Tremaine Brock of the 49ers, Aqib Talib of the New England Patriots, Earl Thomas of the Seattle Seahawks, Dimitri Patterson of the Dolphins, and Sean Lee of the Cowboys. And that is it for your stats this week for NFL. That is it for the show this week. I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you enjoyed my little section, my kind of throw to real music earlier in the show when I had my own superhero power 20 minutes or half hour, superhero power hour. Unfortunately, there was no real music this week. We had some technical difficulties. Hopefully, we'll be back next week with OJ on that show. On this show, I'm doing my best to always be here, even when I'm under the weather. But, I hope I don't miss a show. I want to at least get my year in before I miss any shows. That means I got 3 weeks left to go, folks. Hope you keep enjoying the show. I hope you keep tuning in and listening. Remember, you can find us here on anotherpodcast.com. That's EHNOTHER podcast.com. You can find us on Stitcher.com. You can also find us on iTunes. And don't forget to check the description below because you can also find old episodes, at least of the Warlock Hour, on YouTube, and some of the very early shows of Another Monday, that being Another Podcast, and even possibly some real music on YouTube. But we're still working out the old shows as we speak. So remember to come back every week, listen to the Warlock Hour tomorrow, tune in for NFL Pick'em. Me, Tyler, and Adam sit down and we do our amateur analysis trying to pick out who's going to win this week's NFL games. That's it for now. Have a great week, everyone. We'll see you next week. I'm out. Thanks for listening to Another Podcast from anotherpodcast.com. Don't forget to go on iTunes and or download right from anotherpodcast.com. That's EHNOTHER podcast.com. Follow us on Twitter at Another Podcast. Be sure to check back for tomorrow's show only on Another Podcast, your Canadian podcast network. Anotherpodcast.com. Not a sponsor.